All right, hey there, Jim Hart here today from Hawthorne Law, and I thought I would do a quick video to share with you some of the information that I've been gathering about um, the CARES Act that recently was enacted into law. If you're not familiar with what this is, and I've got to make my screen a little bit smaller here because this is bugging me. Let's see here. All right. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Can you hear me okay? Can you see me okay? Just give a chat. Let me know if, assuming you can hear me okay. You should be able to. But go ahead. I'll be monitoring the chat a little bit as well. So, hey, hello from San Francisco, JC. Can you hear me okay? Let me know. I'm going to be doing a video about this. I already recorded the video, but I'm also going to be, this is going to be my video for this week. It's going to be a little bit more polished than this, but Soma, thank you. Hear you fine, good. So basically what I want to talk about is if you don't already know what's going on, you probably know there's going to be, there's some stimulus checks that are going to be going out in the mail in the coming weeks or months. We'll see how long that takes. But there's other things that are going on. The stimulus checks were not the only aspect of this CARES Act that are really important for you to know as an online business owner. And there's other ways that you can take advantage of this bill if you don't already know about it. And let's see. Hello from Baltimore. I'm assuming that's Baltimore, San Francisco. Rick, great to hear everyone here. Let's see. Nice, Chris. Good to hear you. Good to hear from you. So basically, I put together a list of 9 other programs that you can take advantage of as a small business owner or an individual. Things that you need to know about with regard to the CARES Act. Let's start with what the CARES Act is. It's the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. It was enacted into law on March 27th, and it provides for over $2 trillion in stimulus money for individuals, businesses, and hospitals in the United States in lieu of what's going on with the coronavirus. I'm just going to jump right into this. I don't want to waste your time today. I don't want to waste my time. And let's just get into it. So the first program that you really need to be aware of is the Paycheck Protection Program. This is if you're already in business and you've been paying payroll. You know, I talk a lot in my videos about why you need to pay payroll and why you should elect S corporation status and different things like that. Well, this is one of the reasons why it's going to be beneficial if you've already elected S corporation status and you've actually been paying yourself on payroll, is you get access to this Paycheck Protection Program. And basically, this is a loan program. It's really cool that allows businesses that are adversely affected by the pandemic to borrow money from for a variety of pre-approved expenses. These expenses include payroll costs, continuation of health benefits for your employees, employee compensation for employees that make up to $100,000 or make less than $100,000, mortgage interest obligations if you own the building that you're in, rent, utilities, and interest on debt that was incurred prior to the covered period. You qualify for up to 2.5 times your average monthly payroll obligation. So, you know, and it goes up to, the cap is $10 million. And so basically the way that works is if you've got a small online business and maybe you've got 3 or 4 people that are working for you and your payroll each month is, let's say, $30 or $40 or $50,000, then you could qualify for 2.5 times that amount as a loan. Now here's the thing. Everyone thinks, oh, loan, I don't want to take on more debt. Well, if the debt service is delayed, debt service meaning paying back payments on that loan, is delayed for up to a year. Also, the loan will be forgiven if the funds are used for one of those things that we just talked about. So if it's used to pay rent expenses, although I think there's a cap on anything other than payroll of 25%. I don't know that for sure, but I think that's true. but it can be, debt service can be forgiven if you use it for payroll costs, interest on a mortgage, utility payments, and rent. And so if you do that within the 8 weeks after you get the money, this is basically going to keep your business going for 8 weeks. And then you don't need to worry about paying that money back. So that's kind of cool. So if you don't want to lay off workers and you want to keep people, then this is a good way to do it. Also, let's say you're a independent contractor or a solo who's working on your own with your own business, and you've been paying yourself a salary, then you can continue to pay yourself a salary under this program, and then that loan can be forgiven. So that's kind of cool. A couple things: you need to be in business as of February 15th, 2020, and you also had to have employees that you were paying salaries and payroll taxes on at that time. So that's the first program I want to talk about. The second program is the what's called the Emergency Economic Injury Disaster Loans, and these are typically let me go back for a second. For the payroll protection loan, you have to apply through your bank. So hopefully you've got a bank that you've got an existing relationship with, because my experience was I submitted an application for this yesterday, but my experience is that the banks, they're going to streamline the process for people that they already have an existing business relationship with. So hopefully you've already got a business bank account. If you don't, now would be the time to sign up. But there's that. So you apply through your bank. And the banks don't really know what they're doing yet, I'll be honest. The Treasury guidelines, I think, came out Thursday night. The banks were supposed to start accepting these applications yesterday, and they are still trying to figure out how to go about this and how to deal with this. I actually talked to the branch manager at my bank, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't know what we're doing yet. I'm still trying to figure this out also." So they've got a team in place. They're working on it. They started accepting applications, my bank, last night, and then I submitted mine. But you can go to the SBA.gov website, and there's a link to download the application. You can fill it out and get everything ready to go when your bank does start accepting applications. Let's see. The next thing, okay, the Emergency Economic Injury Disaster Loans. These are SBA loans, so that you apply through the SBA website. And they basically have expanded the eligibility requirements for people to get these. And now they include businesses with not more than 500 employees operating under a sole proprietorship or as an independent contractor. And here is the big kicker with this program, is applicants can request an advance of up to $10,000. You have to do that when you're filling out the application, which only takes like literally 10 or 15 minutes. And that advance can be for any allowable purpose under the statute. I don't have a list of those allowable purposes right now, but it can be used for any allowable purpose under the statute, and is not subject to repayment, even if the loan is denied. And if you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. Can I file for PPP if you're structured a partnership? I believe so, JC. I'm not sure for sure, but when in doubt, apply and see what happens. But I want to share something with you, and this is an email I got from the Small Business Administration. Let's see if I can do this the right way. Hold on a second. All right, how's that? Can you hear me now? I'm sorry, the audio went away. Hopefully I fixed it. As I was saying, this is an email I got from the Small Business Administration. It allows for you to get up to a $10,000 advance on an economic injury disaster loan, and that advance will be forgiven even if your application is declined or is still pending. It's available even if your application is declined or is still pending, and it will be forgiven. So here's the website. I'm going to go ahead and put this in the chat. Hopefully you can hear me now. JC, if you're, I do know that when I said you have to have for the PPP loan, it's 12 months, but if you just formed your business in early February, I think they're taking your payroll from January and February. I believe that's right. You'll have to check. Like I said, if you're not sure, apply and see what happens. All right. So anyway, that's the email I got. So there you go. I'm gonna go back to the webcam if I can. I'm not very good at this live streaming thing. I'm still figuring this out. All right. Hopefully you can still hear me. Let me know if you can't hear me. So all right. Good audio now. Okay. So those are the economic injury disaster loans. All right, the next benefit that's available are unemployment benefits, and these are there's a special program here for unemployment benefits. It's called the Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation. This is available through the unemployment office in your state. So that's where you would apply if you're going to qualify for this. And basically, it expands the scope of individuals who are available or eligible for unemployment. So if you are unable to work because of the pandemic, maybe you've been laid off, you've been furloughed, maybe there's been a reduction in your hours, then you could be eligible for these benefits. And this also includes individuals who are self-employed or gig workers. Gig workers meaning like you drive for Lyft, or you drive for Uber, or maybe you do Instacart shopping or something like that. If your hours have been cut and you're not able to work anymore because of COVID-19, then you can go ahead and apply for unemployment compensation. The benefits, like I said, are administered by the state. And what's going to happen is beginning this past week, the week of April 3rd, there's going to be an automatic increase of $600 per week in benefits. So let's say you were getting $300 a week in unemployment. Now you're going to get $900 a week, and that's going to continue through the end of July. The big issue here is you must be able and available to work or actively seeking work unless you're unable to do so because you've got COVID, you're under quarantine, or you have a movement restriction. And I'm not quite sure what movement restriction is, but I know here in North Carolina there's a stay-at-home order. That might be what they're talking about. I mean, if you can't go in and interview with people for a job, well, it's going to be hard to look for a job. So that is a benefit that you might want to consider if your hours have been reduced, for whatever reason. Can the EIDL loan be forgiven if you do certain things? Struggling now. I'm not sure about that. I don't. It's certainly possible, or Congress could change the requirements as well. However, those loans they typically have longer periods for payback. Also, that $10,000 is can be forgiven. So even if your loan gets declined, that $10,000 can be forgiven. So. It still remains to be seen. I'm still learning this stuff just like everybody else. This is a brand new law. We're still trying to figure out how this is going to work. All right, the next benefit is, most people know about this. It's the stimulus checks, and you're going to be getting these. There's a $1,200 per individual if your income was less than $75,000 the last time you filed a tax return, and I think it phases out at over $100,000 per individual. I believe that's right, or $150,000 as a joint couple. So, and then there's also an additional benefit of $500 per child that's a dependent for you. So, as an example, if you're married and you've got, 2 kids, then you would be entitled to $2,400 for you and your spouse, as well as an additional $1,000 for your 2 children. And those are going to just happen automatically. Now, my understanding is the way that program is going to work is if you have already filed your taxes for 2019 and you put down a bank account for your refund, then those people are going to take priority, and they're going to start with the people that have the lowest income, and then they're going to go up from there to the highest income. So those are the people that are going to get the money first, the people that need it most. And then if you go to people who have not put a bank account, they're going to be next. Again, I think it's lowest to highest, and then they're going to go to the people that have not filed their taxes yet. So that's the way I understand it to work. You're a 1099 contractor. I think, go back and listen, Rayvon. I think we talked a little bit about contractors in terms of the unemployment benefits, as well as the EIDL loans. I think you might be able to apply to. If you the Paycheck Protection Program is only going to be for employers. That's not going to work so well if you do not have a business, if you're a contractor. But the EIDL loan and / grant and the unemployment benefits and those might work well for you. So the next one is mortgage forbearance. And this one is actually it really depends on your lender and the type of loan that you have. But basically, you can ask your mortgage company for forbearance for up to 90 days. What that means is you don't need to make any payments for 90 days. They're not going to report you to the credit bureau. They're not going to take any legal action against you. But you got to be careful about this, because if they delay your mortgage payment for 90 days, you need to figure out how they're going to handle that at the end of the 90-day period. Are they going to just stack all those payments and say, okay, these are all due in 90 days? Or are they going to add them to the end of your loan? Are they going to modify your loan? What are they going to do? You need to know about that before you do anything with this program. And don't just stop paying your mortgage, by the way. You can't do that. If you stop paying your mortgage, then that could be a problem. You need to talk to them. So go online, call them. I called my mortgage provider. I've looked into all these programs to see, how easy they are to apply and different things like that. With the mortgage thing, I talked to my mortgage lender, and they basically said that all the payments were going to be due at the end of 90 days. And I said, well, that's nice to know. Thank you for the information. But I did not take any action on that. I'd much rather just continue to pay my mortgage. So if you can, that's obviously the best way to do it. But if you can't and you need the assistance, then, I guess that's what you would need to do. But I would like to know, JC, rental forbearance, that's the next one up. Give me a second here. But that's the deal with the mortgages. And the most important issue here is you need to make sure that you call your mortgage company ahead of time and talk to them about this before you just stop paying. All right, the next one is rent payments. If you're having trouble paying your rent, you need to call your landlord. You need to talk to them. You need to open up those lines of communication. You need to let them know what's going on, that you're not going to be able to pay your rent. Again, don't just stop paying. Call them, talk to them, email them, whatever. Open up the lines of discussion. There is a 120-day moratorium on evictions, which means that, and this only applies to landlords that have certain mortgages. Typically, it's going to be like HUD mortgages or Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, and some other types of mortgage loans that landlords may have. But you want to talk to them about that. So those that you do want to take a look at if you're having problems making your rent payments. The other thing I will say about this, and I don't know what's going on in other states, but I do know what's going on here. In my county here in North Carolina, they just made another announcement. They had initially delayed all court actions until mid-April, which would have been in a couple weeks here. They have now extended that for another month and a half until the end of May. So there's not going to be any court hearings until June anyway. Yes, Johnny, they can't do anything for 120 days. But again, you want to talk to them because it doesn't apply to all mortgages. It only applies to certain mortgages. And there are other issues. And then what if the landlord owns the property outright? Now, again, like I said, if court's closed, they're not going to be able to get in to do anything. But again, you want to talk to them, open up those lines of communication. I think that's always best practice. All right, the next one, it's a small deduction. It's a small benefit, but it's huge if it's something you want to take advantage of. And basically, you have the standard deduction. It's like $12,400 something dollars, or $24,000, $800 if you are a married couple. And so previously, under that new law that was passed a couple years ago, if you wanted to deduct charitable expenses, you'd have to itemize. Well, now you can deduct up to $300 in charitable expenses if you want to help out and donate some money to some charities to support them during this time. You can do that. Up to $300 is also going to be allowed as a deduction. So that basically you can take the standard deduction and the $300 charitable deduction as well. So that's kind of cool. All right, the next one is health savings accounts. This one is big. If you're not taking advantage of health savings accounts as a self-employed person, you got to jump on this. It's huge. This is like the best of both worlds when you're talking about, traditional retirement plans, IRAs, with Roth retirement plans. You get to put all the money in, and it's tax deductible, and you get to take the money out tax free. It's amazing, provided you use that money for what we call qualified medical expenses. Now, here's where it. Hold on a second. I'm just checking the notes. I'm just checking the comments, see if there's any questions. We'll probably get back to the comments here after I finish this one and the next one. But so you can contribute up to $3,550 in 2020 if you're a single person, or up to $7,100 if you're a married couple, to your HSA. And then you can take that money out to pay for qualified medical expenses. Now, here's what happened. A couple changes to the HSA for 2020. Number one, because they extended the deadline for tax returns to July 15th, you do not have to, and I don't even know why I have these things in because there's nothing coming through them. Because they extended the deadline for tax returns to July 15th, you now have until July 15th to make your contributions for not 2020, but for 2019. In 2019, it was only $3,500 for an individual and $7,000 for a married couple. It went up for 2020. So number one, you got until July 15th to make these contributions. So you can set up your HSA now and fund it before the end of the year, or before July 15th. Second, they've expanded, and this is again big. Back when they passed the Affordable Care Act 10 years ago, they changed the rules to say that you could only the only qualified medical expenses with regards to drugs were going to be prescription medications. Well, now they've changed that law permanently for over-the-counter medication. So if you need to go and pick up some cold medicine because you're not feeling well, or some flu medicine because you're not feeling well, and it's over-the-counter, you can use your HSA to pay for that or for reimbursement. In addition, if you're a female, you can also use the HSA to pay for menstrual products, which is new. So just be aware of those benefits. This is a huge benefit. It's great. And the over-the-counter medication in particular is a really great thing, especially if you have to buy a lot of over-the-counter medications for whatever. And for my family, we do, because we've got kids, and my wife and I, we buy a lot of over-the-counter medication. And so that's nice that we can now use the HSA to pay for that. Okay, that's HSAs. The next one, I caution people with the next one. I would not take advantage of this unless absolutely necessary, but that is withdrawals from your retirement accounts. You can take, for this year, you can take up to $100,000 out of your 401k, or I think IRA too, but I'm not sure about that. and you can take it out penalty free. That means you don't have to pay the 10% penalty on an early withdrawal if you've been adversely affected by COVID-19. I don't know anybody that hasn't been adversely affected by COVID-19. Sorry, lost my train of thought there for a second. Now, you still have to pay taxes on those withdrawals, but you can spread that tax out over a period of 3 years, number one. Number two, you could also pay that money back over the period of 3 years if you wanted to. So this is huge because previously you could take money out of an IRA, and if you put the money back in the IRA within 90 days, you didn't have to pay any tax. But now they've spread that out over 3 years. So that's important. Also, you can take a loan out against your 401k for up to $100,000 or the value of your 401k. And if you have an existing loan, you can delay the repayment on that loan for up to 1 year. It also, the other thing, and I think this is really important that you understand this, it waives required minimum distributions for 2020. And I think the reason they did that is because the stock market is right now. And so they don't want a bunch of people pulling money out of their 401ks to pay for stuff because that's just going to sink the stock market even more. Plus, it's bad for you to pull money out right now. It's better to leave your money in and let it ride out this storm. The stock market will come back eventually. And so you don't want to pull it out. You don't want to buy or you don't want to sell low in this situation. So the law does waive the required minimum distributions for 2020, which is important. Now, for most of you in my audience, that probably doesn't have a huge effect, but if you have an inherited IRA that you are taking required minimum distributions, then maybe this is something that applies to you. Okay, last benefit, number 10, student loan repayment benefit. This is also a big one, and it's interesting. I'll be interested to see how this plays out because I may try and take advantage of this with regard to my business. An employer can pay up to $5,250 in student loans for an employee. And the benefit here is that the employer gets to deduct that money on their taxes, and the student does not have to report that money as income on their taxes. So basically it's a tax benefit for the employer, and it's also a tax benefit for the employee in that they do not have to report that money as income. And that doesn't need to necessarily be for student loans. It could also be for tuition reimbursement or books or supplies related to education, something like that. So that's really kind of cool. So anyway, just a quick recap of those 10 benefits that we talked about here. We've got the Paycheck Protection Program is number one, big benefit. Apply for that as soon as possible if you qualify, because once the money's gone, the money's gone. The Emergency Economic Injury Disaster Loans, you want to apply for that and make sure you check the box to ask for that $10,000 advance that does not have to be repaid even if the loan is denied. Unemployment benefits, if you've lost hours or work because of this, you might qualify for unemployment benefits. You get an additional $600 per week through the federal government. The stimulus checks are coming. Mortgage forbearance, talk to your landlord. Rent payments, talk to your landlord, mortgage forbearance, talk to your mortgage company before you do anything and figure out how they're gonna handle it on the back end. Rent payments, talk to your landlord. Charitable donations, you can donate an additional $300. Health savings accounts, if you're not using these, you're just crazy. You gotta start one, and you can contribute up to $35.50 through July 15th for 2019, or $7,100 if you're married. And then you can take that money out to pay for over-the-counter medication, things like that. You can take out up to $100,000 of your retirement, penalty-free. But you have to pay the taxes over 3 years, or you could pay back the money over 3 years. And then, obviously, the student loan repayment is that $5,250 benefit. So there you go. Those are the benefits from the CARES Act that recently went into law. Let's look and see if we got any questions. I'm I'm furloughed and moved to a different state. Should I file here or my previous state? I think you decide which state you want to apply in, and I think you'd only want to apply in one. You can't apply in both. I think that'd be fraud. As a single person S Corp, is there any defensive posture the S Corp can take to protect the building, house that the S Corp and employee reside in? An S Corp does not protect. An S Corp is a tax election. It is not for liability protection. So I don't know how to answer that question. For the ADL, they asked for the previous year documents. Our company is new and we don't have those documents. What do we do? Well, they did waive the 1 year requirement. It used to be, now you got to understand that when you're applying for these things, a lot of times the web has not caught up to the law, because the law just went into effect like a week ago. So sometimes they're going to ask for things that are not necessarily going to be relevant. But they did, let me just look at my notes again, but I believe that's right. Let's see. Yes, you have to be in business in operation for the EIDL. You have to be in operation as of January 31st, 2020. So if you started your business in February, then you may not be able to get that benefit. But you do not have to be in business for a year, which used to be a requirement. I want to throw money. Okay. All right, Johnny, feel free to schedule a call. That'd be cool. So if I borrow $100,000, I will owe the IRS taxes over 3 years, so I can pay them along the way. That's right. Yeah. So if you're taking money, well, if you borrow $100,000 from your 401k, and you are paying that money back over 3 years, then you don't need to pay taxes on that. That's the benefit. So now if you're taking the money back and you're not paying the money back into your 401k, then you will be able to split the payments over 3 years. Is this a good time to start a business? I recorded a couple days ago the video that I was going to put up on Tuesday. Now I'm going to be doing a video about all this stuff that's going to come up this week. And I think this is a fabulous time to start a business. I think that if you are out there, you're on the fence, if you're at home, maybe you, like I said, your hours have been reduced, or maybe you were doing a home-based business anyway. I mean, people are flooding to the internet. They're flooding to social media. There's a lot of people out there that need help. They need online education. They're not going to see people in person. So I think this is a great time, a fabulous time to be starting a business, especially if it's an online business. I'm going to open a self-directed IRA. Well, if you're just taking money out to put into a self-directed IRA, I think that's a rollover. I don't think that you're going to have any taxes or issues anyway. I'm not that familiar with self-directed IRAs. I know kind of what they are, but there's a great book. Let's see. I think I've got it in my other room, but there's a great book by Garrett, I can't remember his name, who talks about self-directed IRAs. He's pretty big out there. I can't remember the name of his company. Let's see. Is a gig worker eligible for EIDL? Let's see. Yes, if you're a gig worker, an independent contractor, you would be eligible for EIDL. Yes. The repayment terms are going to vary depending on probably the amount you take out. So I think the payment terms can be up to like 30 years, I believe. But again, it would depend. Once you got approved for the loan, they probably would give you the terms. So let's see. Any other questions that people have about this? About all the stuff we talked about here? let's see. I'm not seeing any of the other questions. Hopefully you're out there. Hopefully you're safe. Hopefully you're following the stay-at-home rules, all that stuff. If you got any issues or questions, I'm going to leave this video up for a little bit, and then I'm going to post a new updated video that's going to talk about all these things again on the channel. That'll go live. But thank you so much for being with me here today, and have a great weekend. Oh, Mr. Automatic says, let's see, hold on. Let me see if I can do this. Garrett Gunderson, you're right, Ben. That's right. That's the guy I'm talking about. He's got a book about sacred cows. I think that's right. Yes. My cats are driving me crazy. My kids are driving me crazy. And this week is spring break. So anyway, be safe, folks, and I'll try and do some more of these now that I'm, basically I can, because I'm spending a lot of time in the office by myself and not meeting with a lot of clients right now. I've got more time to devote to this, so I'll try and do more. Have a good one. I'm going to end the stream now. Take care.